we go. Let's call the meeting to order at 6:02. Roll call, please, Carla.
Nyla Fry.
Here.
Trisha Brown.
Here.
Sam Kaufman.
Here.
Krista Runge.
Here.
Aaron Moran. Joe Zitzelsberger.
Here.
And Robert McPherson.
Next up is confirmation of open meeting compliance.
I can confirm that the draft agenda was published in the Waunakee Tribune on 5/11. The final agenda was posted in all three official posting locations on 5/11 and 5/12. And the final agenda and packet were made available online on 5/11. Two important requests for the audience is to be sure you sign in on our sign-in sheet with your name, address, and municipality for accurate record keeping. And those interested in participating in public comment, please fill out a form and hand it to me prior to the agenda item.
And one note for those participating online via Zoom by phone, if you care to raise your hand, *9 during the public comment would be the function to use to join by phone and raise hand.
All right, then the next item on the agenda is public comment. And for public comment, we ask people to step to the podium. Carla, am I correct? Yes, step to the podium, please. Press the button so that you see that the light is green. You'll need to state your name, your address. We have 2 or 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes for our limit. If there's anything on the agenda that you want to talk about, including the items towards the end, which would be the flag, the Waunakee Betterment Fund and whatnot, now would be the time since we do not have an open hearing on those. I understand there might be a petition that's presented as well. So with that, I would invite people to raise their hand. Would you like to call on them?
We'll go in order of the
Excellent.
forms that I received and then we can go.
Great.
off
Thank
that.
you.
So Joel Lewis at 5299 Easy Street, Waunakee.
Hello. All right. My name is Joel Lewis. I live at 5299 Easy Street, Waunakee. So what I would like to talk about is the flag policy. So I'm representing the Waunakee idea. I just want to say that we support the village flying the pride flag on village property / buildings. The village has made significant strides forward with making Waunakee a place that's welcoming and inclusive towards others. The work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that always needs to be at the forefront when decisions are being made. Putting obstacles in place contradict what the village already has pledged to do. So I just want to give you 2 examples which you've already pledged to do. The first thing is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI initiative. I'm just going to pull one thing off of that. What it reads is the village board recognizes the role it plays in fostering a healthy and prosperous environment for all residents of Waunakee and commits to the meaningful advancement of equity, diversity, diversity, and inclusion in its community, dialogue, services, program, and policy. The next example I'm going to pull is a resolution 2021. I'm just going to do the last paragraph. So now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Waunakee recognizes the month of June as LGBTQ Pride Month and will fly the rainbow flag at the Village Hall, Public Library, and Village Center during June to inspire equity, create alliances, celebrate diversity, and establish a safe environment in our community. And that this resolution be distributed and displayed at the Village Hall, Public Library, and Village Center during June. So I just want to say it's really important for this community. There's a lot of people who it impacts. If we are striving towards a community that's supposed to be welcoming, flying that flag is definitely something you need to continue doing. Thank you.
Next is Stephen Day, 1808 Blue Ridge Trail, Waunakee.
I've lived in this community for 20 years now. I'm a retired doctor. And the advances that have been made towards equity among different populations within Waunakee in that 20 years has just been amazing. And the board has played a really important role in that. And the previous speaker kind of outlined it pretty well. I'm here also to talk about the petition for the flag display. So the First Amendment of the Constitution guarantees 5 things: freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom to petition government, and freedom of religion. However, the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment also provides freedom from religion. Two other amendments in the Constitution, the 5th and the 14th, guarantee equal protection under the law, regardless of what a person's background is, regardless of what their religion is or lack of religion is. And the Constitution is just the beginning. We have three branches of government in the federal level. We have the legislative that creates the laws, the executive that administers the law, and then the judicial branch that adjudicates the laws. Nobody's religion and nobody's church is part of any of those three branches, and it should stay that way. Thank you.
Linda Ashmore, 114 South Street, Waunakee. Linda,
on. Sorry. Hi, thank you for the chance to speak. I support flying the pride flag for the month of June. It's a sign of inclusivity and welcome, and I have appreciated that it's been a unanimous vote every time it's come up before the board in the past. I want to address something else, though. There is a petition to change the commemorative flag policy. I watched the meetings which established the current policy and support flying the commemorative flags and would like to address the petition request. The first request is to have all the requests for flying commemorative flags be done in January. The request to lump them all into a January request doesn't align with the timeframes for flying them. The current policy is the dates for display of a commemorative flag should be reasonably related to the event or cause to be commemorated. Having a pride flag resolution discussion in January doesn't make much sense when the resolution is in June. 2, requiring 2 consecutive board meetings to approve a flag is not consistent with how the passing of laws works. A properly noticed meeting with the item on the agenda is a legal requirement. Imposing a more restrictive requirement is an attempt to make it harder to fly the flags. The request for a majority of the village board to approve the flag also is onerous and also may be illegal, as passing something requires a majority of those village board members present, not the majority of village board members. 3, discussion of paying fees is addressed in current policy and states there are no fees and flags must be donated. The reason there's no fees is that it takes very little time to raise an extra flag. And that the discussion was had in 2021, and that's what they came up with. Also, current policy requires a trustee to initiate the request to fly a commemorative flag. So the item in the petition that a citizen must make the request is already being met. 4, currently the flags fly at the village center, village hall, and the library. The petition asked that they only be flown at Village Hall. Limiting the number of places where they are flown limits their impact. Current policy specifies they are to be flown in those 3 places. The 5th item says that a trustee can ask for a commemorative flag at any time throughout the year, which seems to contradict the 1st item. As mentioned above, trustees are required to make the request currently. I think that maybe the people circulating the petition aren't aware of what the current policy is, because some of the things that they're asking for are already covered. So instead of looking at putting this on a future agenda item, I would just hope that village staff could maybe give those people the policy. I also would love it if the Pride and Juneteenth flag were approved in perpetuity. It just seems like we come back here every June and they're good things to fly. I mean, they are a symbol of inclusion for the village. Thank you for your time.
Jerry Ashmore at 114 South Street, Waunakee.
Hi, I'm Jerry Ashmore. I live at 114 South Street and I'm retired. I live pretty comfortably. And as a heterosexual cisgender male, I have a pretty easy life. For instance, there's nobody introducing bills in state legislatures across the country that are attacking me personally and my lifestyle. I don't have to worry about violence that's directed to me because of who I am. And this is not true for people in the transgender community or the LGBT community in general. So I hear a lot of talk very often about how Waunakee is a very welcoming place, a very community oriented place. Well, I think this issue of the Pride Month is where we get tested on that. So either we are a community that is welcoming to only people who pass some kind of purity test, or we are a community that is welcoming to anyone who can live in peace and harmony with their neighbors and not cause anybody any trouble. I have never seen any kind of evidence that people in the LGBT community are any different than any other group in their ability to live with others in peace and harmony and not cause trouble for anybody else. So I am very much in favor of flying the pride flag in the month of June and for the resolution, as has been done in the past 2 years. And so I'd like to state my approval of that. Thank you.
Kevin Nice, 304 West Main Street, Waunakee.
Hey, hi, Kevin Nice, 304 West Main Street, Waunakee. So I don't have a real memorized, I guess, speech to present to everybody here tonight. I sent an email to you all earlier in the week, a couple of days ago, expressing that I think that the flag should be flown. The pride flag should be flown. I was down at the farmer's market on Saturday manning the, I'm a member of the Madison P flag, parents, friends of lesbian, gay, and the overall support for the gay community, for the lesbian, gay, the LGBTQ community is inspiring. And we need to continue that here in Waunakee. I would like to second what Linda had Ashmore had brought up earlier. We have to come up here every year and with a hat in hand and ask you guys to fly the damn flag again. And we shouldn't have to do that, right? Why doesn't the village board tonight show that common sense really is common and just do it forever? Just fly the flag every June. Thank you.
I have no further requests.
Do we have anyone online? Their hand raised?
Yeah, I'm going to check that again here. We do have several people online. I've instructed participants that they can click raise hand to participate. I would also note that there's one participant by phone, and *9 would be the way to raise hand by phone. Taking a quick pause here. I do not see hands raised at the moment. No hands raised.
All right, and no other further public comments? All right. Thank you all very much. Then we will close public comment. All right, next item up is the consent agenda. Do we have anything that needs to be pulled from the consent agenda? Or anybody want anything pulled from the consent agenda? If not, we'll take a motion to approve. Or to not approve.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Do we have any discussion before we go to question? No? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. Consent agenda approves. Next item on the agenda is new to the agenda. It is the Village Committee reports. This is an opportunity for board members to report on recent committee participation, and we'll limit the reports to 2 minutes per report. In our advanced thinking about this, I did not think in which order we would go for the committee. So let's go by order of board member, if that's all right. Today for discussion, I've got a little list here. We're going to try to start with a different person leading discussion every time. So let's start. Nyla, could we go with you first? And you, as I'm saying this, told me?
Sam's going to report on Public Works.
All right, thank you.
In terms of the Public Works Committee, most of what we discussed was just approved on our consent agenda. We did discuss some issues in terms of the West Bridge retention pond, having some issues with backfill, but we have a plan in place and we're going to work on dredging that as well as the 4 bays on some of the other ponds, but everything else we already approved.
Thank you very much. All right, Tricia, do we want to report on Plan Commission?
Charlotte was a defer to Joe if he'd like to, but no. No, it was, I think, everything that was on the agenda, including a new development out in the business park that was, what's the word I'm looking for right now? Deferred to a future meeting for more information to come before us, was unanimous. It was approved. A couple of the items, some discussion, but Joe, what am I missing on this one? Sorry, I was not prepared for the committee report, Kristen.
That's all right. Neither was I. So, no.
I was not as well. I think you
Okay.
got the main stuff.
We'll get the hang of this. So, Erin,
So this is just for what we chair or what we
for what you share.
Okay. It's Great Waunakee. We just presented our second annual Bright Light Award at the Waunakee Community Awards. And we have some good projects in the works. Art on Main for the maybe 9th, 10th year. It starts soon this summer. And Make Music Day is in June. So there'll be June 21st, I think. Music all over the village. So if people want to perform or host an artist, they should reach out. The library, guess I'll talk about too. Summer hours will go after Memorial Day, so that means no Sundays. But we meet in a few weeks, so it's been a little while, but things seem to be going well and people enjoying the lawn. And heard all the election went well in April. They said that was very smooth. So usually there's a few new signups too, I think, on election day at the library. So
Excellent. Wonderful. Elections as recruiting events. Robert.
Yes, so attended the EMS committee meeting. There's a few items of note from that. One is that the EMS has gotten their second truck up and running effectively. So that's taking some pressure off of the fire department to go with them on calls, which is very important for EMS and not overburdening fire, especially. They are looking to purchase their next ambulance. If anybody's aware of issues with buying vehicles, that means that they have to start buying now for an ambulance that may or may not arrive sometime at the end of 2025. They're also facing some changes in emission standards and things like that. They're kind of pushing them forward to make the purchase earlier than normal. And then the other items, they are about to go into bargaining session for the union. We're waiting to hear from their union rep. And in case anybody was concerned, the EMS has been working on a project where they are bringing in new members that are younger, kind of training them up as volunteers and then getting them to go through training so that they can come back and actually work as employees of EMS. So that's one way that they're looking to address the shortage of qualified paramedics.
Thank you very much. Any other committee reports? Have we missed anyone that it's met over the last couple of weeks? Do not believe we have. All right. All right. Good first try. We'll get better as this goes along. All right. Next item, licenses and permits. And for number one, discuss and take action on temporary Class B. I believe we do need a motion to remove it from the table because we tabled it during the last meeting. And if it's all right, I'll make that motion to remove item 1 from the table so that we can discuss and take action on temporary Class B. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of simply removing it? Well, do we want a discussion of removing it from the table? No?
I don't know if it's a debatable motion, is it?
I don't know if it is either. Is it a debatable motion?
Quite frankly, I think you would have been fine without it because you
Okay.
reposted your agenda with having a discussion action, but I would just go ahead and vote.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Item number 1, discuss and take action on temporary Class B retailers license application for the St. John Parish Festival.
So the applicant came in, modified their application to show the times of the event. We are, just as a background, we are working with Brian Kleinmeyer and myself and Todd and the police chief to work on creating a new form where we get all this information up front that the board is seeking, so we can have that on the application. But they did come in, revised or amended their application, and it shows the times of, as well as the fencing.
Excellent. So do we have any comments on that? No?
Sure.
Sure. All right.
Made a few notes. I think it's consistent with what they've done in the past, so that's all good. The map that was in the packet didn't show double fencing, showed where the fencing was going to be. I'm assuming that fencing would be consistent with what's been done in the past, so that's good. And the only other thing that I would throw out there is the music permit is until midnight. Do we want to be approving serving alcohol till midnight as well, or is that something that should be potentially stopped a little bit earlier?
Excellent question. So let's begin discussion. So Joe, you went first. Would anybody else like to comment before we begin?
Joe, I believe the double fencing has been removed. It isn't necessary anymore. Is that correct?
From our last conversation, our last go, I believe they did remove the double
Yes.
fencing, but I would rather check with the police department on that.
Okay.
Fence around the school count.
I think it just needs to be one fence.
Oh, I'm not saying that it needs to be. I'm saying that that's what it was in the past.
Oh,
And that there
okay.
was,
Okay,
I think at that point that there was a desire from somebody to
Right.
do that. So,
great. Thanks.
yeah.
Other comments? No? Trisha, Sam?
No, I can just say I live very close to this facility and I didn't even know it was happening for the first couple of years. So it hasn't been a neighborhood disruption in any way, shape or form.
Thank you. Sam? All
No problem.
right. Aaron? No. Robert? All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the temporary Class B license application for St. John the Baptist Church Parish Festival on June 16th and 17th, 2023.
I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion before we go to question? All right, seeing none, let's move to question. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. Item number 2, discuss and take action on change agent for MBB Ventures LLC, doing business as Par Bar Indoor Golf, indoor golf.
So this one is similar to other establishments we have here. Employees change and therefore agents need to change. And they came in and applied for a new agent for the day-to-day operations, which is Garrett Chisholm.
All right, and Todd, you waved at me.
Nope, I'm waving at. Sorry, I'm waving at Sylvie, who's watching
Oh,
on YouTube right now.
okay.
I promised my sister I would do it. So,
All right, sorry. Like, did I do something wrong? It's only my second time doing this. Mistakes will be made.
I was trying to be more discreet. I really
All right.
failed.
Okay. All right, well, we're all friends here. All right, so any questions or should we start discussion this time? Robert, would you like to discuss this, open this discussion? If you, and maybe there's no discussion for this.
There's no.
No, okay. Does anyone have any comments on this one? No.
I will move approval of Garrett Chisholm as the agent for MBB Ventures LLC doing business as Par Bar Indoor Golf.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes.
And I can confirm that Sylvie, I've got a text. She did witness the wave. So
Excellent.
all good.
Excellent. So number 3, discuss and take action of indoor premise expansion for Par Bar Indoor Golf, 350 North Century Avenue.
So Par Bar has expanded. They've gotten larger and they needed more seating area for their restaurant space. And so they have knocked out the wall where the bricks used to be and have expanded into that area for additional seating for the restaurant.
Any discussion on this item?
And just to clarify, it does stay as the premise at 350 North Century Avenue.
Okay,
340 now goes away.
okay. Excellent. So any discussion on this motion?
Just good for them for growing, and I'll move to approve the premise expansion of Par Bar Indoor Golf located at 350 North Century Avenue as described in the premise description.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. Discuss and take action on original alcohol beverage license application for Grace Coffee Waunakee LLC, doing business as Grace Coffee.
Grace Coffee is going into the mill which is the old Mill House Quilts area. And they're opening up a coffee shop that also requires a license, which would be a reserve license. So they will have a full Class B license for that location.
Any discussion on this item?
Sure.
All right.
What happens if,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, they don't serve as much coffee and end up starting to serve a whole lot more alcohol? Does that have any effect on anything?
Does that have an effect on their license? Would be one of my questions.
Not,
Like,
yeah, I
is
don't
that-
think license, but I'm wondering about even the usage of that space, that sort of thing.
So I had a conversation with Tim about this. They do need to follow the conditions of their CUP for operating the business. But if it were not to succeed and it changed over, or Grace Coffee decided not to be in that location and they wanted to have a different establishment there, the conditional use would allow for such the same use. So a bar could essentially be there, if that's of concern.
All right, so discussion. And that,
But Joe, just to clarify, there, we do not keep track of their amount of sales of alcohol versus their licensing.
I would be surprised if that sort of a transition ended up happening, but you never know.
No, good question.
yes. I guess I don't have, do you have any, Nyla? Any questions? Trisha? Any questions? Sam? Aaron?
No.
Robert?
Oh,
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve as stated for the approval of the Grace Coffee's original alcohol beverage license application. Said very smoothly.
Do you have a second? Do
I'll second.
we have any discussion on the motion? Brian?
I just want to
Yeah.
confirm that in the recommended motion, there are certain requirements that they have to satisfy before it would be issued, and I just want to make sure that that is included.
Okay.
The intent is to include the statements that Carla put in the memo in the motion.
Okay, should we read that out loud?
So I can, it's just an approve, it's subject to possession of a current seller's permit, payment of outstanding liquor bills, and payment of all outstanding bills or monies owed to the village.
All right.
My
Accepted?
second includes that.
All right. All right. Any discussion of the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's move to question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. And last item in this section,
We have two more.
two more items, I'm sorry, second to last. Discuss and take action on original alcohol beverage license application for Waunakee doing business as Waunakee.
This is essentially a change in ownership. The current owners are selling. We have the new applicants here in the audience, and they are just applying for basically the same license that currently exists there.
Do you have any discussion on this motion or on this item?
motion to approve an original alcohol beverage license application for Waunakee LLC doing business as Waunakee located at 301 South Century Avenue, subject to possession of a current seller's permit, payment of outstanding liquor bills, and payment of all outstanding bills or monies owed the village.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Last item, discuss and take action on original alcohol beverage license application for Waunakee Home Talent Baseball, doing business as Waunakee Home Talent Baseball.
In the past, this was treated as a temporary picnic license. The DOR has had some changes where they do not consider a temporary event to last more than 14 days, consecutive days for an event. So they have suggested that we have the applicant apply for a 6-month license. It does not have to be consecutive 6 months. And it would be for a class B beer only license or beer license, not beer only, fermented malt beverage.
Discussion on this item. Nyla.
I have one question. I'm not familiar with what goes on during these events. And I'm just wondering, how late do these events go and how late do they serve? Do they serve as long as the event is going on? And just some information that way, please.
Ken, do you mind going right up to the microphone? Thank you. And then just state your name.
Yes, Kent Adler, business manager from Waunakee Home Talent. What we do, Nyla, is they usually open the concession stand around 12 o'clock. Game starts at 1, usually done around 3:30, maybe 3:45. Stay open for about a half hour after you, 4:15. Something in that time, so probably between 12 and 4:30 at the latest. And sometimes 12:30 to 4:30, but 4:30 is the latest time that we are open.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments?
Sure. I see there's, looks like Mary Stoffels probably is listed as president, but we do not have an auxiliary questionnaire for that person. Seems like that might be something needed.
I apologize for that oversight. I didn't see that, so we can get one from her.
Okay.
I know that the operator, and Kent can agree to this, he said that if you were not going to be available, she would be the other operator that would be at that location, and that we have done that in the past where they have had 2 operators.
Okay.
But for the meantime, would you be available at the first couple games?
Yes.
Where she will? So we still have time.
Yep.
To get her
Okay.
auxiliary and bring it.
The other question that I would have is, do we have to do anything special to the motion to account for the specific game dates or timing, anything like that?
No,
or we're
because-
just leaving it open?
They're gonna have to come and do the renewal process since they're considered a regular license. So come June or July 1st, they'll renew their license from July 1st to the end of June 30th. So it's kind of, to get them on the right schedule this year, it's gonna take a little extra work, but we've told Kent that we'll work with them and get the paperwork. So you're gonna see paperwork again for renewals for them come June.
I guess the other thought that I was having there is if all of a sudden they have games different from those that are listed in the packet.
They would be covered for the months that the games, so it's not specific to the dates of the events because it's now a month to month
Okay.
license versus the temporary event permit would have been per event.
Okay. Then we're good there.
All right, so can we make the motion tonight and get the secondary approval for the second operator?
Yes.
later? Okay, right. Any other discussion?
I will move to approve an original alcohol beverage license application for Waunakee Hometown Baseball, subject to payment of all outstanding bills or monies owed to the village.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion before we move to question?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
took, we
Go ahead.
we need to, I can either make a motion to amend or, well, it's on the floor. It's been
Yeah.
seconded. It has to be amended. So I motion to amend to add in subject to receipt of the auxiliary questionnaire for, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher Mary's last name. Is it
Stoffels,
Stoffels?
I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I ask a question? My understanding was you were going to potentially, if you approve this, you were going to approve the license tonight. That other application is going to come back to you for another board meeting, but they would still be able to operate for their games on Memorial Day weekend without the approval of this other operator. In other words, my understanding is essentially now the operator that has been approved has to be there for them to serve alcohol. So I'm not sure if you need a supplemental motion here because for that other individual to serve the alcohol, it's going to have to come back to you.
Well, it hasn't been seconded, so I'll withdraw.
Does that second, or does that auxiliary questionnaire, does that provide that server's license or whatever, or is that additional information for this particular license?
I think essentially what's going to happen is when they come back and just looking at the dates of the games, do they have any in June? Okay. Well, if they want it, I would say it potentially broadens the scope. Right now with what you're approving tonight, there's only one individual who's going to be able to is going to have to be present to operate the beer stand. If they come back and they get a subsequent operator who also gets approved and that still needs to come back to you, then they would have flexibility to have 2 different operators. But at this point, the one individual who's been approved would always have to be present for beer to be sold. in my opinion, that's what you're approving tonight.
Okay.
Guess the concern then in that case is we don't, does the motion delineate that normally everybody would be on there would be approved, right?
Well, my understanding is that's the concern, is that the person that we don't have the auxiliary, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, Carla, but we don't have the auxiliary application for the other person. So you effectively cannot approve them tonight because you don't have that before you.
They only need one, right?
Correct. They
But
need,
since they are listed on the application, one could probably make the assumption that we would have that even though we don't have that. So it might not be bad to clarify the motion by specifically calling out that we don't have that.
So you're saying that basically you want the motion to be clear that Mr. Adler has to be present whenever alcohol is sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want, that amended motion, I think would be appropriate.
Okay, then since I haven't been seconding, I'm going to change my amendment just to say that amended. So I want to put forth an amendment that again, Mr. Adler must be present for alcohol sales to.
I'll
take
second
place.
that. Wait, no, it's an amendment to the motion. Is the person that seconded it? Does it have
That's fine.
to be accepted?
No,
You can second.
you can
I
second.
can second it?
Yep.
It doesn't have to be accepted by the person that made the motion?
No.
All right. It's been a while, so.
Well, because you're going to have to vote on this amendment first, and then you will go back and you will vote
Okay.
on the original motion.
All right. Do we have any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, let's call the question for the amendment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, all right. Amend now does the original,
The original motion is amended pursuant to the amendment that was just approved.
all right. Do we have any discussion on the amended motion? No. Seeing no discussion, let's move to question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. All right. We are done with that item. Now we're on to business items. Discuss and take action on public mural funding request and associated agreement with property owner at 200 West Main Street. All right.
Thank you. So coming to the podium is Michelle Coleman. Michelle and I have known each other for some time, and I'm happy to be working with her on a potential public art mural installation here in the village. I'm going to give Michelle the floor in a moment to talk about the concept for the mural and her purpose behind it and her vision for it. I'll just give you some logistical details so you know that part of the story. We've looked at several locations, Michelle and I and others have, and we've found a location, the 200 West Main. It's the Waunakee building, and the side facing wall there screams for more. If you can picture that spot. We've spoken with the property owners, John and Suzanne Gernant. They are willing to allow the village to install a mural there. They're not, however, interested in being the owner, which is a different scenario than the Waunakee furniture mural and the new mural being placed on the Gather property. Those are owned out of interest by the building owner themselves. So the approach that we would take here in working with Dane Arts Mural Arts is just install the mural on aluminum panels, and then those panels would be mounted to the side of the building and then removed if ever the Gernants or some future owner would wish for them to be removed. But the village would be the owner of the mural itself. Those panels would be property of the village. In terms of the arrangement to allow that to happen on the side of the building, and talking to Attorney Kleinmeyer, a relatively simple lease agreement to allow that is something that we can craft and would be sought for by the Gernants as well, to offer them protections to host the village mural on the side of their building. But they're a willing participant. They're actually artists themselves, so we're happy for that. I'm going to bring up a concept photo of what Michelle is hoping to do. But Michelle, I'm going to have you tell a bit of the story behind why and what this mural is going to mean for you and others.
Sure. I might get choked up. I lost my 18-year-old son 18 months ago, very tragically and unexpectedly. And what I've found is that one of the ways that helps to release some of the pain, because it's the most unimaginable pain that you can ever experience, is to do things that honor his life. And then I thought, well, there's got to be a lot of other people that I know, several other people who have lost people too young here in our community. And not everybody is as much of a go-getter as I am. So, or has the ideas that I have. So I wanted to do something that was for the community and that would honor anybody in our community who has lost a loved one too soon. So we've seen, you've probably seen some of these murals in different places throughout the country where there's wings. It could be angel wings or butterfly wings. So one of my ideas is the idea is to do the wings. And with the Wana bike building is just so perfect, being close to the schools and in, a heavily walking area. And then what I want to do is on one side, have a hashtag here that says Waunakee Wings. So that when people go get their pictures taken with the mural, they can do the hashtag of Waunakee Wings. And then the other side, it would say your wings are ready, but our hearts were not. And then Ted, do you have the next one also?
Yep, let me see how quickly I can get to that. Give me a second. Here you go, on its way.
So in working with Dane Arts Mural Arts, they do require half down in order for them to start working on the design. So these are designs for inspiration right now, and they'll start developing the design specific for Waunakee once we can give them half down. But one of my ideas for some of the fundraising is to do a design, something like this one, where these butterflies that look like they're flying up into the sky. And then we could encourage people, if they wanted to make a donation, that they could have their loved one's name and forever age in there. So in my case, it'd be Kate Reddington, forever 18. So that the initial response that I've gotten from some of the other parents that I've talked to have lost children too young, everybody loves this idea and feels that it would be very healing and a great way to commemorate their loved ones. So we'd love your support on making this happen.
We do have an estimate from Dama that it would be about $8,000 for completion and installation. As Michelle said, they require 50% down. Now, the village's creative economy work has generated funds on hand that we have thanks to our auction of the Main Street art and other balances carried forward from our prior Create Waunakee budgets. What I would ask the board to consider is to participate, being that it'll be a village-owned public art, that the village participate by supplying the 50% down payment with the remainder to be fundraised through work that Michelle, I, and others would collaborate on together. So that's the request before you, and specifically the motion is to approve an amount not to exceed $4,000 for the 50% down payment, along with authorizing the village administrator and village attorney, and we'll look over your shoulder, to execute an agreement with John and Suzanne Gurnett for use of their property at 200 West Main Street for public mural installation. We did get a sense from Dama that they believe this could be a project completed yet this summer if we get to work on it.
Yeah, we were hoping by August before a lot of the community kids go back to college. And then we could do a block party, which we may have to come back for another motion on, I guess.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle. And thank you, Todd. Do we have any discussion of it? Yeah, Tricia.
Just one question and more to if we anticipate costs associated with the lease, so that we prepare for that or address that in the motion.
Yeah, I believe I'm accurate in saying that the Grenants are willing to offer their building for this use with an appropriate lease that protects them.
Okay, awesome.
Other comments? Any others?
I think this is a beautiful use for this.
I love it.
I do have a couple of questions. Do we have any sort of information about what these panels will look like? And then what is their durability to the weather and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we did meet with the artist from Dama. The installation would involve, and correct me, Michelle, if I'm wrong, but 3 aluminum panels, 4 feet by 8 feet each. So imagine those placed high, 3 in a row. They'll be painted off-site and then installed with a bracketing system behind them that's connected to the building. They're also coated with protectant that both cares for the ultraviolet sun, as well as a coating to protect it from graffiti. Essentially, it's a coating that allows graffiti to be easily removed. So that's the details that we've learned from Dama.
I think it's a beautiful idea, Michelle. Thank you for bringing it forward. I think it's a wonderful way to remember Cade and the other kids that we've lost, the young people that we've lost way too soon. Yeah. All right. So with that, go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think this is a beautiful idea. I wish yeah, I hope the fundraising goes well and goes quick. And if there is more than the amount, would that go back to the Great Waunakee Fund? Or do we know that? Or for other art projects?
While Michelle and I feel confident, I would say that if we have to come back for funds in excess of $4,000, I would bring that to you for action.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that's good.
Robert, did you have anything?
That just raised a question in my mind, say they're really successful, or are they gonna stop when they get to the amount they need, or is it they go over, would that go back to Create Waunakee?
That's a good question. So I've asked for funds up to $4,000, not exactly $4,000. If our fundraising is successful beyond the other 50%, that amount would offset our $4,000 contribution.
Okay.
Upfront. Is that, Michelle, you agree?
Yeah, it was wondering. And Nyla or Sam? Nyla?
I think it's a wonderful idea. It's beautiful. It's something that I think a lot of people want to have their pictures taken by, so it'll encourage people to be downtown even more. So it has my support.
I think it looks lovely. I think especially going with the monarch butterfly and the agricultural heritage of that building that we talk about in the comp plan. I think picking a native species fits very nicely with that. Yeah. Yeah.
And for the recording, that Michelle's voice wasn't picked up on the mics, but we can't say for certain the design will end up as a monarch. The DAMA will begin their work and bring a few concepts back for review. But is that accurate? Okay.
All right. I'd like to make a motion then to approve an amount not to exceed $4,000 for down payment related to the public mural project and to authorize the village attorney and village administrator to execute an agreement with John and Suzanne Granat for use of the property at 200 West Main Street for public mural installation.
I'll second it.
All right. Do we have any discussion on the motion? No. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. Right, next item on the agenda, discuss and take action on adoption of Affordable Housing Betterment Fund program. And I believe that's you, Tim.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. For over a year, the Community Development Authority of Waunakee has been discussing various options for the distribution of affordable housing funds that were originally created from the extension of TID District Number 2. Sorry, that's a little redundant. TIF District Number 2. The original apportionment of those dollars was distributed to the Cohen Esri project, which is the Village on Main multifamily housing on Main Street near McDonald's, which is, I believe, at full capacity. So very successful. The current fund balance is approximately $157,000. After evaluating housing policies from several other communities within the state, the CDA landed on their own program, which was based in part on the city of Menasha, and staff would like to acknowledge the city of Menasha and their staff in the help and creation of this. But what this program is, entitled the Waunakee Housing Betterment Fund, is a reimbursable grant program to help eligible single and two-family homeowners increase curb appeal, value, and livability of their homes. The program would provide matching funds in the form of reimbursable grants and provide between $2,000 and $10,000 for eligible expenses, resulting in projects of a value ranging between $4,000 and $20,000. Applications would be reviewed 3 times a year under the program and processed through community development and finance departments, but ultimately evaluated and scored by the CDA. There are several forms yet that need to be created that will be done with the help of our village attorney should this program be adopted this evening. The Community Development Department would earmark approximately $1,500 annually for marketing the program. The CDA did recommend approval of this program to the village board at their January 2023 meeting. Staff is recommending approval and available for questions.
All right, so far discussion has been pretty free form, but let's approach this a little bit more formally, if we don't mind, because this is a big decision and a big step forward for the village in some ways. So if we don't mind, let us start today's discussion with Robert. Would you mind opening this one?
Sure. So I think that this is a good start program for the village to start addressing, usage of affordable housing funds from the TID extension. There was one item in the proposal that I was kind of struggling with a little bit under when it comes to the funds and the granted funds, it's not really evident in there if where they're getting the funds that we have to match. So kind of thinking like, where is it that we're expecting them to go for funds first before they match it? The second part that I was kind of concerned about on here that I just couldn't find it in here. So do we have a carve out in here for the fact that applicants need to be like an Alice household or anything like that, that would make sure that we're going to affordable or people who need affordable housing funds? I guess I'm just saying like somebody who makes a lot of money could easily get in a house that is below 125% median assessed value and then just say, okay, now the village is going to give me 10,000, that they can very easily get 10,000 to match against. So that's 10,000 less they have to borrow. I worry that we might be incentivizing the wrong type of behavior with that.
Tim, do you want to take a swing at that?
I can take a start. Maybe our attorney can join in. Certainly the intent is not to do what Robert was discussing. There is a scoring a matrix associated with this. I think that is on page 82 of the packet. There isn't going to be an income qualification for this, so such that individuals can, who are in a situation, let's say someone with $1 million buys a $200,000 house. I believe the current median household income in Waunakee is in the neighborhood of $118,000. The CDA would look at that and say, wow, that's an order of magnitude way beyond what a median household in Waunakee makes. Therefore, that person is not eligible under this program. Under the scoring, they would be eligible or it would be their purview to make that assessment.
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
Yep.
So the minimum score from the matrix is not a hard and fast rule, because if I ignore the household income, which is a double score, and I buy a house that's less than 350,000, that's 6 points. If my house is over 60 years old, that's 7 points. And then I only need to prove that there's some sort of major repair that will impact future sellability, or that it adds a great amount of livability to the home. I might get to 9 points. So I just want to make sure that an applicant doesn't come back and sue the village later and say, well, wait a minute, I met your minimum requirements. Why aren't you giving this to me?
Yep. So we did have that discussion with the CDA on that, what that scoring threshold would be. And I think that number that's in there is what the CDA recommended. So I may defer to some of those members who are here to give a little more clarity on that, but I can just say that that's the number that was landed on it by the CDA.
And I'll address it. We did not intend it to be an entitlement program, and we intended there to be a fail-safe that if somebody had a clearly high income and was coming in just for the advantage of the money, that we had the ability to say no. So I think that was fairly clear, but what we wrote and how other people read it are always two different things, right? So maybe that's something we need to clarify. Tricia, did you have anything to add?
No, I think the intention was that we don't have to award grants. Like it is discretionary and based on, ideally a competitive nature, and that's where the ranking would come in for the scoring.
And Brian, are we in a defensible position?
Um, yeah, I mean, there is definitely language in here that gives the village discretion. Now, that being said, I get, my understanding is the CDA had this for multiple meetings. I think this is the first meeting that the village board has it. I think all of the questions that have been raised to this time are very reasonable questions. And one way to approach, I mean, and I obviously want to make sure that we get them answers to your satisfaction. One way to potentially approach this is to continue with the discussion. I mean, I've made already 3 notes on questions that have been asked. It may be appropriate to basically take comments from the village board tonight and then have staff try to address those specific questions, and then have that, and then there could theoretically even be more questions that board members may have as you maybe digest the document a little bit more. I mean, I know that Tim spent a considerable amount of time on it. I know that it's, if it's not all the way there, it's pretty darn close. But you all just have this now, and all of the questions that you have right now make a lot of sense. And part of it may be just being able to pinpoint it a little bit better for you all, but I think we might need some time to do that. Because I do believe that there's language in this document that tries to make clear that it's a discretionary determination. The question that Robert raised regarding wanting to make sure that just because somebody qualifies doesn't mean they get paid. That's something that we've thought about a lot, and in fact talked about with that minimum requirement number, because I think there was some discussion about potentially raising it for that very reason. And so maybe that's the way to approach it, because just want to make sure that all your questions get answered.
Agreed. Yeah, this is a big move. Any other questions, Robert?
No, that was, I mean, I respect the time it was put in. I mean, that was really the only thing that I honed in on, because the rest of it looks good. And yeah, I just worry about somebody making a perverse argument of, I'm making this home and I'm remodeling it and I'm going to give it to somebody, or I'm going to rent it to somebody at a really affordable rate. And so I'm using the Waunakee Home Betterment Fund to do. People are terrible sometimes about things like that. So if they find a loophole, I feel like they would exploit it. That's all. Otherwise, I think it's a really good, well put together plan.
Joe, let's just go right down the line.
I will say that Robert has addressed at least one of the topics on my list. Overall, I think the document is pretty tight. The couple of things that I had concern about was, again, the income qualification. There seems to be kind of a lacking of anything concrete there, and that may be intentional, but probably some additional language around that. One of the other concerns that I had was eligible properties is listed as owner occupied. And I guess my question would be, at what point does it have to be owner occupied? I'm going to assume after any repairs are done, at the point at which they're actually asking for that reimbursement. But if they, occupy it at that point and then decide to move out and rent it, we don't have, I don't think, according to this document, any sort of clawback, any other qualification that they remain as an owner occupant.
So I think that there is clawback language if they sell the property, but I don't think that there's language in there that deals with if all of a sudden it no longer becomes owner occupied. And so to the extent the village board wants to see, that language, there could be a new subsection that's added to deal with what you're talking about, or the existing language could be broadened if that's something the board wants to see.
It's something I'd like to see. I don't know about the rest of the board. And then the only other comment that I had, there's the section on universal design. And that feels to me like it should be an appendix rather than part of that main document. The rest of the document is specific to, these are the things you have to do. This is the requirements. These are the eligible items and ineligible items. And since the universal design stuff is not a requirement, it just feels like it should be separated out.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Aaron.
Yeah, I think Joe brought up one of my questions about the owner occupied, and even if there's like a time frame, or because I think things change for people if it's a year or 2 years. And then I guess my follow-up question to my question is, how do we necessarily track that if someone's living there or not? Do we really have the ability to get that? And then so it says it happens 3 times per year. Is it like is everyone applying at the same time? Sort of situation? Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, short answer was yes, they
Okay.
could. So there would be, I mean, we
Like
would
cycles.
probably anticipate, since this is new, several applications with that first cycle, but roughly, yeah, once every 4 months.
Okay. And then, because I mentioned that grant funds that are approved but not used could go back to other applications. So I didn't know if that just meant like people that applied that maybe didn't get picked, or if it just goes back into the general, like we have more available next cycle.
Yeah, generally it would go back into that sort of next
Okay.
cycle.
And if people weren't approved, we have so much interest and there's deserving people not awarded. Do they have to do everything again, or are we working through that with them? Just update kind of applications?
Good, that's a good question. I guess we didn't really talk that much about that. How long is an applicant valid,
Yeah.
right? So if it doesn't get chosen, is it valid in perpetuity? We didn't really discuss
Okay.
that.
All good questions, you guys. Keep them coming. Sam, or did you have anything else, Aaron? I'm sorry. No, okay.
Yeah, my questions were pretty much already asked. I wanted to see the income qualification aspect tightened up, and definitely reorganization of the universal design section caught my eye. But overall, I'd definitely say that this document is reflective of the amount of time and effort that Kim put in, and is almost all the way where it needs to be.
And Tricia, is it okay if I skip you to go to Nyla since we were on the committee?
I agree that the questions that have come up are very good questions. And I will say that I worked on the housing task force, and this is taking a little bit of the village's needs and coming up with a program to take care of one of the issues that we have. We want to keep working families and senior citizens in their homes and helping them maintain and perhaps do remodeling to keep them in their homes due to changing needs in their as they age. This would go a long ways. So I'm glad we've gotten to this point.
And thank you, Nyla. And I forgot to acknowledge that you were also on the committee, did a lot of work on this. So thank you very much. Tricia, did you have any comments or questions?
Just the last one. So I think the amount of time, definitely from Tim, but even Todd moderated a couple of our meetings to help us really hone in on what was most important to the community, what would have the highest impact with a limited amount of funds that we had, understanding that whatever we put together was going to likely need some massaging as it's implemented, and we find out where the demand is, what kind of applications we're getting in for what types of projects, et cetera. So I think while this is incredible from where we started, there still is a little bit of, knowing that we're going to have some work and refinement as it's implemented, or as the popularity of the program grows. And hopefully that the impact that it has on our housing stock in the community. One question that I had, and I can't remember, and I apologize because we probably talked about this, is with the marketing funds that are allocated, the $1,500 a year, is that able to be designated from the TIF funds? So it's not like additional money carved out of the CDA funds, or it can be supplanted from one or the other. I guess that's a question I had. And I can't remember on it. Sorry.
I think the answer is yes, but I'm not gonna think or opine. I guess I would defer to that, Brian. I think it is.
Maybe it's one of the things we come back with on that for clarification.
When you say the funding, are you, for example, you saying, and I don't want to jump ahead to the next item, but if the resolution in the next item gets approved, then my understanding is for an 11-month period, we're going to have the TIF extension like we did previously that helped fund the Cohen Esri project. I mean, the monies that are put into that pool, then, I mean, the village board is going to have the ability to essentially, if you ultimately go ahead with this program, my understanding with the program is essentially the village board would approve the program, and then the CDA would effectively govern it. The CDA would control the purse strings. I'm sorry, the village board would control the purse strings to the extent of how much money is provided to the CDA. Then the CDA is going to have discretion as to how to distribute that under the program. What I think you knew all that. I think what I'm trying to get is then there was a question related, like additional monies.
No. I guess I'm wondering if that 1,500 can be part of that fund and not just coming out of the existing CDA budget.
I believe Renee's ready to hit her button, but There are specifics for administration
Okay.
support. Is that what you were going to touch on?
Well, I was just gonna say that I thought when I read this item that the 1,500 was actually gonna come out of the community development budget, which is unrelated to the affordable housing budget. So it'd be in Tim's budget, but maybe I misread that.
It could be handled a couple different ways, I believe. Number one is what Renee just said. Certainly that could come out of our department's budget. But I think where Tricia, you were going, the state statute talks about the delineation of funds, 75% of which has to go to affordable housing, 25% could go to just housing stock in general. And perhaps under that guise, that the administration of the Affordable Housing Fund may fit under either. But again, I want to talk more to Brian about that.
No, and I didn't mean to complicate it. I'm sorry. I just was trying to, if there was administrative support that could be allocated as part of this, that it didn't necessarily have to carve out of your existing budget.
Yeah, I think 1,500 though is not that much. And I'm confident we could find that in our budget.
All right, so it's feeling based on our discussion like we want to send this back, maybe do some more work on it before we consider it for passing. Is that correct? Do we need a motion to do that, or or we table it? Do we?
I don't think you actually need to take any action if you don't want to. I think
All right.
I think we have a clear understanding and we've been taking notes on all the questions, and you obviously have the ability to send additional questions to staff. You know, if you take a second look through the document and run across some things that you didn't notice before.
All right. All right. Thank you guys very much. Then moving on to the next item on the agenda, discuss and take action to extend tax incremental district number 3 for 11 months to allocate a portion of the final year of increment for affordable housing or to terminate TID number 3. And again, as with this last item, this is a little bit kind of more of a significant discussion. So let's approach this a little bit more formally. Tim.
All right, thanks again, Kristen. I'm going to share my screen for this, so bear with me just a moment. Okay, the materials are found on pages 83 through 87 of your packet. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the boundary for TID 3 and as extended. So TID 3 was created originally in 2000 and then amended in 2004. As such, the expiration essentially comes due fairly soon, June 5th of this year. However, we could extend for about 11 months to capture the increment necessary to pay all the associated costs for the district that remain. However, by extending it 11 months, there would be a portion that could be used. And I'm not sure exactly. I think this is on page, I'm not sure. This could be on page 87, I think, of your packet. Okay, so the table that's shown here shows the amounts that would go to the 4 respective taxing jurisdictions: Dane County, Village of Waunakee, Waunakee School District, and MATC. Should the dollars go back in whole, the total amount 775, if the village board so approves the request, would go to the Affordable Housing Fund. Now, not necessarily to the one we were talking about just a moment ago, the Waunakee, the Housing Betterment Fund, but to that statutorily earmarked dollars that's either 75-25 split as enumerated in the resolution. One of the things so the CDA did recommend that the village board take action in the affirmative, but they said they asked staff to contact the other taxing jurisdictions to get feedback. And so I did that. And here are the responses I received on April 17th from Madison College. They said, we don't have any comments or concerns if dollars were withheld in 2024. Similar by Adam Gallagher at Dane County. They did not have any concern if the funds were going to support affordable housing. I attended the Waunakee Community School Board meeting on May 8th. That was last Monday. And they said in general, they see both sides of the equation, but they would really like the village to be mindful of the benefit to the district. So those are that's the feedback from the other 3 taxing jurisdictions. So again, that's the gist of it. The CDA again did recommend approval of these dollars for inclusion in the for use for affordable housing.
All right, so can I ask a clarifying question before we open it up for discussion? So we just went over the Housing Betterment Fund, and just to be clear, this would be money that we could draw the Housing Betterment Fund from.
I'm sorry, yes, yet you could, that would be an eligible expense or an eligible use of those dollars.
And other affordable housing projects that we might consider, similar to Cohen Esri's project or whatnot, could also be drawn from this fund too. So it's not just limited to housing betterment,
Correct.
but 75% at a minimum must be dedicated to affordable housing.
Correct.
All right, I just want to clarify that they're two, as you said, close in proximity conversations. So with that, let's open it up for discussion, and let's start on the left side of the room this time, my left. Nyla?
I think it would be good use of the funds to keep the TIF open or the TID open. It's important that we have a pot of money to be able to work on housing for working families and senior citizens and those, and we're missing a lot of middle housing. So this is one of the few ways that we can fund this. And I feel that we need to go ahead and keep this for the additional 11 months.
Thank you, Nyla. Tricia?
Two of the, I think, most relevant comments that came out of the discussion that was had at the CDA, in which they recommended moving forward with the extension of the TID and the allocation of these funds towards housing programs, was that this may be one of the nearest term opportunities to supplement that fund with additional money if the housing program, the Waunakee Affordable Housing Betterment Fund program is well received and has high demand, and or if we wanted to create some other type of program that helped to address or support other affordable housing or working family housing programs in the community. So it was kind of an opportunity that we have to take advantage of it now that we may not have for some time.
Sam?
Well, 1-year TID extensions for affordable housing are an underutilized tool in our state, frankly, and I think it's important that we be a leader in this area and continue doing that. So it certainly has my support.
Erin?
I think this could be a game changer for a lot of people. That's a huge opportunity for the community, not necessarily just for the village, but like our region and a lot of lives. Do we have to take all of it? Is it, or I guess, is it an all or nothing kind of thing?
We'd actually had that question in the CDA, and I think you answered it, Tim. What was that? I don't remember what the answer was.
I will address that because we did reach out to the Department of Revenue. And technically, you could choose to, so first of all, we have to take the increment needed to finish off the costs of TID 3. So we have that information up there. What is left is the $775,000. And the Department of Revenue did say that you could technically set an amount for the amount that you want to go to the affordable housing, and then you could actually refund a portion as well. So we clarified that just last week, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. But, again, first we would pay off the TID 3 obligations. Then you could, perhaps you'd want to set a dollar amount aside to go to the housing fund. And then the remainder, it would still be prorated on the same percentages. Again, these are estimates, but it would be prorated, whatever that final remainder is.
That was my next question, is if it was the same percentage breakdown. So thank you.
Any other questions? No. All right, Joe.
I think the extension is an opportunity that doesn't always present itself very frequently. So it's something that we probably should take advantage of. That being said, I do have a couple of questions. Is there a timeline during which we have to spend those funds for housing? Or can they sit there for 20 years if need be?
Maybe Brian can address this.
So my recollection is that topic came up for discussion when we actually did this the first time. And there is not a specific statutory deadline, but that actually kind of piggybacks into the question that Aaron had, which is, and I want to paraphrase, I think what the village board did the last time, effectively was, we think this is a good idea and we want to do it. If it turns out that we don't have the opportunities to provide the payments that we think that we might have right now, we always have the ability to reevaluate this after a number of years. And if we decide that we don't need to keep as much money as we have, then we can redistribute it to the taxing jurisdictions. So no specific statutory deadline, but it is something that you can revisit later if you want to.
Okay. Seems a little odd that we can just hang on to.
Well, I think the
quarters
reason
of $1 million and then just give it back years from now.
The reason why I think maybe the state is comfortable with that is because of the restrictions on how it can be spent.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Sort of an additional question on that. Can we invest that during the time that we have it?
I think that in all likelihood, our general rules regarding investments would probably apply, but I'd need to talk to Renee about that unless she knows the answer specifically.
Right. Our normal investment policy would apply to these funds as well. So, we're restricted by state statute in what we can invest in.
Yep.
And so we would be limited to those type of investments, but we can earn interest on these funds as we already have been on the funds that are in there.
Sure.
And they stay within that housing fund.
I doubt that we're going to get to a point that we're generating enough off of that it, feeds itself, but certainly if we could do something to at least offset inflation and to some extent, that would be a good thing.
Joe, if I could respond to your first question too. I mean, keep in mind that whenever we create a TIF district, we need the other taxing jurisdictions to participate. To me, that's another kind of check on the village's, let's not even talk about the village, a municipality, let's say, is $1 million that's been sitting there for 20 years. The other taxing jurisdictions are going to know that money's there. And then if you come to them and say, I want to create a TID, they're going to say, now, wait a second.
That is a great point. Great point.
If I could add one other note about the interest earnings. I believe that with interest earnings within that fund, the earnings don't have to follow the same stipulated rules as the initial balance amount. So what I'm getting to, I believe, is that the thought of expenses related to administration of the program, the marketing dollars, et cetera, perhaps those interest earnings could become the revenue source for those other uses. Is that?
I would have to clarify that for sure to see what the restrictions are on that, but it's a very likely possibility.
Good call. And then the only other item I've got is actually something I had reached out to Renee on, and that is, we're talking about extending this. We're also talking about it being from the 2023 tax roll payable in 2024, but then there's an 11-month concept. So if you could address that to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yes, that is kind of a confusing concept, but when the Department of Revenue looks at TIF districts, April 15th is a target date for them. So anything that happens from April 16th of one year to April 15th of the next year, meets a certain time frame. In this case, since we are adopting the resolution, if the resolution is adopted tonight, which is May 15th, we would need to close the TIF district by April 15th of next year, which is where you get the 11 months from. But anything that happens April 15th or prior gets retroactively back to the beginning of the year. So that's why 2024 would be the last year of collection of the 2023 tax roll. Because again, they use April 15th as their what they paying off of when they're doing their valuations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Robert.
So huge advocate for using the extension. I think as a member of the public, I talked about it for 5 years now. So I'm actually personally excited to be up here to vote on this one, just because of how important it is. I would say as a banker, if you came to me and said that we have a way that we can turn your investment back 3 times on itself to support a really good cause that your village needs, we would say, yes, please sign me up. Or do I do that? That being said, I did attend the school board meeting and they did have very real concerns. Well, I won't point out the fact that the first person to start bringing up concerns does not live in Waunakee, but it's a very valid concern. I think it's one that we should be cognizant of. I would state that I agree with what the road Joe was going down here about. If we do extend this, we need to be very serious about using those funds. And I think that, and staying on topic here, but I think that we have a start with something that was provided tonight, but I think that we need to have further conversations as well about other uses for the funds. We can't just stop there, because while it would be great to take all 775 and that's, if you did the max, that's 77 houses that we could work on. I think that we need to think bigger with it, because this is a significant amount of money, and we need to be good municipal partners and show that we're going to use it to do something great.
Very excited about this personally. Those of you that were on the Waunakee Housing Task Force have worked towards something like this for a long time. Those of you that have participated in the CDA and have sat on board meetings, this is an exciting opportunity. I agree. We absolutely need to be responsible to our other municipal partners and responsible to the community as a whole. So does anybody have any other comments that they would like to make? Seeing none, anyone have a motion?
Motion to. Go ahead, Matt. You go ahead. You're on the board, so you do it.
Move to approve the resolution extending TID number 3 to allow a portion of the final year of increment to be used for the Affordable Housing Fund.
Second.
Oh, you can have it.
All right. Do we have any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. All right.
If I could, I just want to clarify. So the motion that you approved was the resolution on pages 84 and 85. If you saw there, it was kind of an either or. If you weren't going to approve that motion, it was page 86. You did not approve anything on page 86. That will come, I think, next year, probably.
Right, just prior to that April 15th, 2024 deadline. And I spoke of, that's when we would do then the actual termination.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. It's an important clarification. So, all right, next item on the list, discuss and take action to adopt resolution recognizing June as LGBT Pride Month and to fly the pride flag at municipal buildings. All right.
I crafted a memo on Sam's behalf. Trustee Kaufman made the request per our policy for the board to consider flying this commemorative flag for the month of June. And I think without taking his thunder, I'll let Sam explain his reasoning for making the request.
Yeah, this is the third consecutive year that I've made this request. It's been extremely well received in the community. School district, as well as the town of Westport, have done this for longer than we have. There seems to be some misinformation out there as to thinking that this is a new thing. It's not. This is the third year that it has been done. We've also flown the Ho Chunk flag in accordance with the policy. We have an excellent policy that members of the previous board crafted because of how objective it is. I know it's been copied by many other communities, including at least one that I personally worked with the mayor of that community on. So I would hope that this board would approve the resolution unanimously for the third consecutive year.
Do we have any discussion? Any? None? Robert?
Yes. I'd like to speak strongly in support of this. I believe that not only has the community spoken, but we've seen countless efforts to stymie, even recognition. The school district had a bit of a issue last month. People protested rightfully. I was out there. There's a lot of people that are out clamoring. In fact, I wanted to, if Brian, if you would indulge me, since we've had a few comments sent to us, claiming that the Supreme Court decision impacts this, can we get like an official opinion from you on that, or?
Well, I mean, I would say this, we heard one speaker reference 4 different sections of the Constitution. I know I've seen some emails that have been sent to you referencing Supreme Court decision related to Boston in 2022. I haven't looked at the briefs in that case, but my expectation is both sides probably cited about 20 different cases that they felt supported them. To me, I think this goes back to Sam's comment. The village board spent a long time trying to come up with, trying to have an objective policy. Now, there's clearly going to be some subjective nature to it, but the intent was to have a policy that was as objective as we could. We've looked at other, it's not an absolute guarantee that what the village is doing is going to withstand scrutiny, but we're doing what the federal government has done. We're doing what the state government has done. To me, if the federal government and the state government have flown flags that now the village is looking to fly, there's definitely an understanding from many different people that we need to raise awareness on these issues. And I think really that's my understanding of what the village board is doing when it chooses to implement this policy is support a position that it believes should be supported and awareness should be raised to help support that position. It's almost, I don't want to speak too generally, but it's kind of like a PSA in that way. And so I can't sit here and say that if we get sued, and hopefully we don't, but that this is, a guarantee that we would win. But I think we've taken steps to try to be as objective as we can. And for all the reasons that Sam said. And I think Sam actually was one of the people who helped in drafting the policy too.
And I always interpret it as we are, as the village board, are saying that we're exercising our speech in a way.
Well, you're definitely exercising your authority, I would say. I mean, again, I'm not sure to the extent the court would see this as a distinction, just looking at some of the stuff related to some of the cases that you received. It appeared that the Supreme Court was looking at this as not speech from a governmental body, but speech from private citizens. I mean, when you look at the policy, it's got to be something that a village board member brings forward. And again, I go back to, I believe that there is a public purpose that underlies what the village board has done in adoption of the policy. And if it chooses to fly one of the flags or commemorative flags based on the application of the policy.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clarified for the public.
Thank you, Robert. Do we have other comments? Nyla?
I was on the board that passed the policy that we're using, and I strongly favor that policy. We worked hard on it. We are working to move forward in the community, and I would not want to see us move backwards. So I support the policy and support flying the flag.
Any other comments?
I'll just say the policy wise, we spent a lot of time working on it to make sure that it was appropriate and anyone could use the process as needed. I strongly support us flying this in June, and thank you, Sam, for your work the past 2 years, especially to do this. I think if one person feels more welcome and more supported in our community by seeing one of these flags, that's enough to do this, but I hope it's more than one person.
Any other comments?
No, I just acknowledge all the people that came out to speak and just to advocate for in emails that I know that I received, most of us all received, both providing different perspectives, but I just think that the opinions that were shared and that support of however they feel was good and appreciated. I do think this is something that does help the community feel more inclusive and supported as well.
All right, Joe.
From a personal standpoint, I'm absolutely in favor of this. I really appreciate Brian's comments on it. And all the different things that have been talked about from a legal standpoint. Based on our current policy, I think it makes sense to probably move forward with it. Based on the petition that has also been circulated, I would like to suggest that we add a discussion point about this policy to a future meeting.
Right.
So that's pretty much where I'm at.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys for coming out today, for supporting this, for standing up and for being visible in the community. As the mom of a member of the LGBT community and the niece, I appreciate the work that has been done on behalf of the community over the years and the people that have worked to make Waunakee a welcoming place. So thank you very much for that. Do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the resolution recognizing June 2023 as LGBTQ Pride Month and to fly the pride flag at municipal buildings.
I'll
Do we have a
second that.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? Todd?
So I just want to chime in real quick. So we were donated pride flags back when we first flew the flag. Since then, I would note that the governor issued a new version of the flag that included, sorry, I'm looking for the Progress Pride flag, which has become additionally regarded and accepted as a more inclusive approach to the recognition. We haven't been donated that particular flag. Would there be opposition to flying the Progress Pride flag if that flag were donated, or would you prefer that we stick with the standard pride flag that we received?
I'm more than happy to make an amended motion to change it to the Progress Pride flag.
I as well, if we're all okay with it. I could help with logistics. We could get some of those.
Okay, yeah, to be clear, per our policy, that would need to be three donated.
Yep, that's
flags,
fine.
okay.
Yep, I can
Alright.
work on that.
All right. Any other further discussion? And thank you for that, Todd.
Yeah, that was an amendment.
Amendment?
So
Oh,
to make it
oh.
official, that we're going to fly the Progress Pride flag.
Okay, we have an
But
amendment.
Can I just mention,
Yes.
what happens if you don't get them? I mean, my recommendation would just to leave it broad right now and give the village staff discretion, because I'd hate to see something happen where all of a sudden you guys decide to have the Progress flag, and for whatever reason, I'm sure it's unlikely, but we don't get those flags, then all of a sudden, what are we doing? So,
Can,
Well, would that
could
go?
it be or
yes, yeah,
Progress flag
Yeah.
or Pride
yep.
flag?
All right,
It's
so
the amendment.
that is the amendment. Let's vote on the, any
a second.
discussion?
I need a second.
Second. Oh, we need a second. I'll second.
Okay.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? No. Let's vote on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now let's go to the motion. Any discussion on the amended motion? No? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Abstentions? No, it passes. All right. And I believe that
Motion to
might,
adjourn.
we should adjourn. That might be our last
Second.
item. Do we have, yeah, there we go. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Thanks, Todd.